Okay, now we're good. What is going on, everyone? Like I said, hope you're having a great Tuesday. So today we are going to dive into the question, which is how long will it take to see results? Because I was on a call with somebody who recently signed up for our program, actually, and she had asked me, how long will it take to see results? And I want this talk to not necessarily be how long it will take to see results in our program specifically, but just in general. Because I think like we could really go down a really nice rabbit hole with this and dive into some details as far as like what things we have to consider when we're thinking about how long it will take for us to achieve X result, right? Like maybe you're in this group and you want to lose 10 pounds or you want to lose 30 pounds or you want to lose 40 pounds, or maybe you don't necessarily care about losing the weight. Maybe you're already at a healthy weight and you want to just transform your body and change your body composition. Depending on what your goal is, the amount of time it's going to take will vary. But there's also some other factors to consider as far as how long it's going to take to see results too, regardless of like what your actual goal is. So like, I think the first thing I really wanted to touch on with this was the importance of not comparing yourself to, or not comparing your journey to other people's. Because I think we get into this trap of like, we want to lose weight or we want to get in better shape. And, we're scrolling on social media. We see all these transformation videos or these transformation photos. Maybe even, you're in this group and you see these posts of these people who have lost 30 pounds, who have lost 20 pounds. And you see, all these screenshots of these huge wins from our clients, or you see these progress pictures and these big dramatic differences. And, you start comparing your progress to other people's. And I've even had like some clients compare their progress to other clients' progress that's been posted, and of wondering like, should I be achieving this same result this quickly, or am I doing things wrong? Or so I thought it'd be perfect to start off with that and just emphasize like we need to stop comparing our journeys to other people's, because the speed that we achieve results or get results is going to be totally different based on these factors that I'm going to talk about, in this video, in this podcast, in this recording. So let's just go ahead and dive in. So how long will it take to see results? It will depend on a few things. So number one is we have to think about and define, what do we even consider results? And this might seem like a simple question, right? The result is like what I want to achieve long term. But if you want to lose 20 pounds, is losing 2 pounds a result for you? Or is it only going to feel like you achieved results if you got to that 20 pound mark and when you finally achieve that? Also, we have to think about these results you're kind of looking for, asking how long will it take to achieve them. Are we thinking internal results or external? Because like almost immediately, I would say within the first few days, for sure in the first week or two, when clients sign on for our program, they start to see results or feel results internally based on their energy levels, how strong they feel, their sleep, all of these things. They start to internally feel those results or see those results within just a couple of weeks, like I said, if it even takes that long. But if we're taking in external, if we're talking about external results, that might be for some people, they might externally start to see results, like see their clothes start to fit better, start to see the scale go down. They might externally see those things within just the first week or two, but other clients, depending on where they're coming in and all these other factors I'm going to go over, they might not start seeing those external physical results maybe until they're maybe 4 or 5 weeks in. So we have to determine, what do you consider results? Are you aiming for, like when you ask this question, are you talking more just external results, like seeing, your clothes fit better, or your clothing size go down, or the scale weight go down, or more definition, in your stomach and your thighs or wherever? Or are we also considering internal results? How long will it take me to even see or feel those internal results too? So that's something to keep in mind when asking this question, because if you are somebody who you don't keep track of your nutrition at all, you have no idea how many calories you're eating, you have no idea how many grams of protein, you're not conscious of your food choices at all. If we start dialing even a couple of those things in, you're going to internally feel better almost instantly. So that's one thing to think about, is internal versus external results. What do you consider your results when you're asking this question? Another thing to think about with how long it will take to see results is how advanced you are. And this might be one of the biggest factors. But what I mean by this is, like, have you already lost a bunch of weight? So are you somebody who you started your journey and maybe you had the goal of losing 50 pounds and maybe you're already 35 pounds down and you just have 15 more pounds to lose to get to a healthy weight for you, to get to your goal weight, to feel like, okay, I'm right where I want to be. I don't need to lose any more weight. So are you in that scenario, or are you somebody who maybe you haven't lost any weight yet and you are starting at that 50-pound mark? How close are you to your goal weight? Like I said, are you 15 pounds away to your goal weight, or are you 5 or 10 pounds away? And are you starting this just wanting to lose 5 to 10 pounds too? Like, are you starting with a much smaller goal because you're already that much closer to your goal weight, or are you starting with a big goal? Also, how long have you been exercising or working out currently? So when we first start exercising or first start working out, our bodies respond very quickly to that stimulus or that workout. Like, I can't even tell you how many times, I've started working with clients and they don't exercise at all, and they start doing just 2 or 3 days a week, and they start to see some dramatic changes in their body and their strength, especially. In the beginning, like, maybe they're able to instantly, like within a week or two, start curling the 10s instead of the 5s, or maybe the 15s instead of the 5s. So how long have you been doing that? Are you just starting out your exercise routine and your body isn't very adapted to exercise yet? Or have you been working out or training or exercising for, 10 plus years to where your body is pretty used to working out and you've already built like a little bit of muscle underneath, and the rate of muscle growth or the rate of strength gain is just going to be slower because you're more advanced. So that's something else to think about too. Another thing to think about when it comes to, how long it's going to take to see results is, what does your dieting history look like? So are you somebody who you have been overeating for a significant amount of time? Have you been overeating for years and years and years and have slowly gained weight, 5 pounds maybe each year, and then you've gotten to this point where, you need to lose 40 pounds? Or are you somebody who maybe you've gotten 40 pounds overweight and then you've constantly dieted, lost, 20 to 30 pounds, gained the weight back, lost 20 to 30 pounds doing some other kind of crash diet, gained the weight back? Have you yo-yo dieted for a number of years, versus have you just consistently eaten more than what your body requires, and that's why you've gained the weight? Those types of people, the speed of the results can take a lot different of time, because if you're somebody who you have a big history of yo-yo dieting, it might take longer for you to actually lose the weight versus somebody who hasn't really yo-yo dieted their entire life and they've just steadily gained weight because their metabolism hasn't been really adapted to those crash diets as much. So there isn't as much possible damage or possible slowing down of the metabolism because of that. Also, how consistent are you with your nutrition and your workouts? It's another question to ask when you're thinking about how long it's going to take for you to get results. Are you somebody who, you start a workout program of 2 to 3 days a week, let's say 3 days a week, and are you super consistent with that? And every single week you always hit your 3 workouts no matter what? Or some weeks are you constantly maybe getting just 2 or maybe just 1, or some days here and there, or some weeks here and there, you end up not getting any of those workouts in? Same thing with nutrition too. Like if you sign up, with a coach or us, and we give you a nutrition goal, okay, this is your calorie range. Are you hitting that range 7 days a week, no matter what? Or are some days you're going, 600 calories over that goal, or maybe even some days are you going, 300 or 400 calories under that goal that we give you? So how consistent are you? Because the more consistency you have, the faster you're going to see results versus how inconsistent you are. If you're always falling off every other day and half of your week, 50% of your week isn't on point, then those results are just going to be slower. Like a big thing that a lot of people struggle with is the weekends, where Monday through Thursday, they do really well. And then Saturday through Sunday, they're inconsistent with their tracking, or they go over their calorie goal because they want to go out to dinner and they want to, enjoy these things, and they don't plan for it. So it ends up spilling over into their above their calorie goal, or maybe, they have different social things going on. So they had a workout that they planned to do on the weekend and then they skipped it. And a lot of people fall into this trap of Monday through Thursday being on point, and then Friday through Sunday being way off. And when we actually calculate it, it sounds like, oh, it's just the weekend. I'm doing really well throughout the week, but I'm sabotaging everything, just in the short weekend. But really, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that's what somewhere around 37. No, actually, it's probably even more. It's probably somewhere 43% of our week. Haven't done the math specifically on that yet recently, but it's probably somewhere around there. So it's almost half of your week that you're kind of throwing out the window and not doing the things you need to do. And that's going to slow your results down, because if you're only 50% on point all the time, then you're going to get 50% of the results you could get if you were 100% on point during that time period. So that's something else to think about, is how consistent are you truly? Can you really check off the boxes 7 days a week and say, I nailed all of my goals every single day this week? Or are you constantly having, 3 or 4 days that aren't on point? Also, too, we have to think about genetics. Genetics play, quite a big role in how fast we can see results. Now, you'll have some people who will tell you genetics don't mean anything. It's all about how much work you put in, and you just have to, push through it and have the discipline, and you can, achieve anything possible. But in extreme examples, genetics do play a big role. For myself, I will never be the next LeBron James. No matter how hard I work, I will never be that, because, I just don't have the genetics for it. And same thing, even with the strongest powerlifter, right? The best in the world. Just using that as an example, since I do a lot of powerlifting, that person who is maybe my body weight and they're squatting 700 plus pounds, they're bench pressing 400 plus pounds, they're deadlifting 800 pounds, maybe. No matter how consistent I am and how long I work for, there's probably a very good chance that I will never get to that level, because, the person at the very top of that level, they have, the top 0.001% of genetics that help them get there, along with all the hard work and everything behind it. But I use that example not to discourage anybody from pushing for their goals, but just to highlight that genetics do, in the most extreme examples, play a role. And even in the most day-to-day examples, can play a little bit of a role too, to where, somebody who maybe they just genetically are predisposed to maybe holding less body fat, maybe to building more muscle quickly, they're going to see probably a more dramatic transformation in 3 months versus somebody who genetically, maybe they hold a little bit more body fat in their stomach, maybe they their body is just a little bit more resistant towards losing fat in that area, maybe their body isn't as primed to build muscle as quickly. That person is probably going to have a little bit less of a dramatic transformation in 3 months. And it's just the way it is. And it's not to where you can't, if you're the person with not as good genetics in that kind of more real life day-to-day example, it doesn't mean that you can't achieve the same result that this other person did. It just means it might take you maybe 4.5 or 5 months versus just 3 months compared to that other person. So think about genetics too. And don't use it as a way to discourage yourself and be like, oh, well, there's no point in trying, but just use it as a way to kind of bring yourself and your expectations down to earth and be like, okay, I'm doing everything I need to do. This person maybe achieved, this result in 3 months, but I know maybe genetically they might be a little bit more blessed. So it's okay if I take 4.5 to 5 months to achieve that same result. So kind of keep that in mind too. And something else, I like to talk with clients about too is I was having a conversation with one just recently, and she has lost about I think as of now, I'm Trying to remember what her starting weight was, but I think she's for sure down 15 pounds so far since it was either January or February when she signed on. So she's down at least 15 pounds, maybe up to like 17 or 18 right now. And she has this goal of, okay, like she would love to lose 30 more pounds by like February of 2024, which puts us at months wise. I think we're maybe about 8 or 9 months away from that date. So losing about 30 pounds in 8 to 9 months, it's realistic. Like it falls in that realistic range, and it's not an unhealthy rate of weight loss by any means. But her current weight loss she's achieved it just simply by having a calorie goal. We've adjusted that a little bit here and there. We've done a couple of what we call diet breaks to kind of build her metabolism up in between fat loss phases, as well as kind of reset her hunger a little bit. So we've done a little bit of that, but nothing like really drastic or crazy with her nutrition, really. And then workout wise, she's been pretty, and she'll tell you this, she's been pretty inconsistent with her workouts. She hasn't really been doing them every single week. She's been trying to get them in when she can. Her sleep really hasn't been great during this time period, just because of like life stress, and she has her own business and that, and she has kids as well. And her step goal too, she's fallen short of her step goal for, a good portion of these past, few months. But she still lost 15 pounds because, the changes we made are changes that really move the needle forward. So she doesn't have to be perfect to see results. But she's lost 15 pounds doing that, like hitting her calorie goal, being pretty consistent with nutrition, but not really executing as well on the activity side of things. But a conversation I had with her is if she wants to continue to lose weight at this pace, and if she wants to lose another 30 pounds by February of 2024 and, another 8 to 9 months, she'll likely have to start hitting her step goal more consistently. And she'll likely have to start doing her workouts more consistently. And when we're thinking about the pace of weight loss, she's lost 15 pounds in, let's say, 4 months. If she wants to lose 30 pounds in another 8 months, we're not really increasing the pace of weight loss much. But in order to achieve that same pace of weight loss, she'll have to up her consistency. So kind of an analogy I like to use for this example when I explain to clients is if you want to continue to see results past what you have and past when you get to a certain level, you have to think of it almost as like a video game, right? Now, kind of like bear with me. Don't shut this off just because I mentioned video games if you're not a video game player, because this will make sense. But you could go from level 1 in a video game to level 2, maybe even just using like one button. So like an example that just immediately thought of in my head was if you ever heard of like Mortal Kombat, it's this like fighting game. They have these like characters with different powers and stuff. This was a game I played back when I was, I don't even know, like maybe 10 or 11 years old. But you could go from beating like the level 1 guy to the level 2 guy probably from just learning like what one button is, what a simple like punch or a simple strike is for that character. Now, like I said, bear with me, this is going to make sense. But you could get to level 1 or get to level 2 from level 1 from probably just knowing one button, not even knowing how to like jump, not even knowing how to do different combinations of moves, not even knowing how to reverse anything, but maybe just standing there and pressing the one button to strike, and you continuously do that, and it's super easy. But that's going from level 1 to level 2. And that's kind of like in this example where this client was losing, her first 15 pounds. But now that she wants to lose another 30, in this video gaming example, it's like going from maybe level 10 to 11 to where now, since we're at a higher level and we're trying to go to a higher level above that, you need to use all of the buttons to beat this character to go from, 10 to 11 instead of just one button to go from 1 to 2. So instead of just learning a basic strike button, you have to now learn how to jump. You have to learn how to reverse different moves. You have to learn how to do different combos or like special moves that help you defeat this monster or whatever it is, this character more efficiently. So every time you keep trying to progress and progress and progress to the next level, to the next level, to the next level, you have to learn how to use more buttons or pull from different levers, or utilize different strategies to keep getting you up there. So going back to this client, right? She lost 15 pounds by pretty much just changing her nutrition. Like exercise wise, she did make some changes, so I don't want to like cut her short there, but she wasn't super consistent with those. But to go from losing from her 15-pound loss, if she wants to then lose an additional 30, eventually she'll probably have to be pretty consistent with at least 3 days a week working out. And she'll probably have to be pretty consistent with, at least 6 to 7 days hitting her step goal to get to that ultimate goal of losing an additional 30 pounds, which for her would be 45 pounds down total. So as you continue on your journey, the amount of time it takes to see results will be longer. But it also, the amount of inputs or the amount of work or the amount of things you have to focus on to get to that next level will actually increase too. So something else to think about too is like when we're comparing, kind of the comparison thing is somebody's 3-month transformation might look more dramatic than your 1-year transformation, depending on where you're at. And a really good example of this is somebody who is, let's say somebody who has 50 pounds they want to lose, and let's say in the first 3 months they lose 20 pounds. Like that's going to be a pretty dramatic looking difference, like just on the overall shape of this person, their overall frame, their overall clothing size is going to change dramatically if they lose those 20 pounds in the 3 months. So that's going to be a pretty dramatic physical transformation that like anybody's going to be able to look at and see, wow, like this person lost weight. This person really worked hard in the gym and, changed their body. Versus somebody else who, let's say maybe they just have like 10 pounds, 5 or 10 pounds they want to lose. That 3-month transformation isn't going to look as dramatic. And especially goes for somebody who maybe, you've gotten to pretty much your goal weight, but you're not happy with your body composition and shape. Like, your body weight's in a healthy spot. You're not dealing with any negative health issues, but you still would like to, tone up your thighs. You would like to tone up your arms. You'd like to lose some inches in your waist a little bit. You'd like to just overall kind of sculpt things a little bit more and lose a little bit more body fat. Your like 1-year transformation might look as dramatic as that original person who lost the 20 pounds in 3 months. It might look just as dramatic as their 3-month transformation. And that's because you're just at a different level than them as far as, how close you are to your kind of max genetic potential, how close you are to a healthy body weight, how close you are to a healthy body composition. You're just closer. So to move the needle forward and to inch forward and to keep making progress, it's just going to overall take a little bit longer of a period of time. And, this is a conversation I have, with plenty of clients who are more advanced, who have been working out for 5 to 10 years. They overall are pretty athletic or pretty fit already, but they still want to lose that last like 5 to 10 pounds. I have to reassure them like, yeah, this other person might be losing, they might be 40 pounds down and they might have these dramatic transformation pictures, but overall they're still farther away than their kind of overall goal that they're aiming for than you are. So because they're farther away, the initial progress they're going to make is going to look more dramatic. It's going to be faster than you since you're just kind of more advanced in that level. So this goes for appearance, but it also goes for your performance in the gym or how you feel in your workouts. When you first start working out, like I said, working out is such a new stimulus to your body that your body responds so quickly to it. Like when you first start lifting weights, you could go in the leg press and your very first week, you might only be able to do 50 pounds. And then by week 4, you might be putting 200 pounds on that thing, because that stimulus of lifting the weights, the stimulus of doing that movement is so new that your body just really adapts so quickly to it in the beginning versus somebody who has been, doing leg press for 5 years. They might go in week 1 of a certain month and they might be already, lifting 180 pounds. And on a week 4, they might only be able to put 200 pounds on it. And they're only going up 20 pounds in 4 weeks versus the other person is going up 150 pounds in 4 weeks. And that's just because they've been, doing this for so much longer that their body has already kind of soaked up a lot of that adaptation. And to really get any more adaptation, you really just need more consistency and more time than somebody who hasn't really soaked all of that up. So it goes, like I said, for performance as well as not only appearance. And this is also, like I said, another reason why it's so important to not compare yourself, especially when you're comparing like the rate of progress that you're achieving versus someone else. Another variable or another factor that I want to talk about, because I think it's extremely important, is what life obstacles do you have in the way that this other person that you're comparing yourself to might not have in the way. So like stress is a big one. Stress impacts the body so much. It makes it harder to lose fat. It makes it harder to sleep, which then impacts fat loss. It makes it harder to stick with your calorie goal, because if you're stressed, you're more likely to either not eat as much or overeat. So that makes it harder. It's a simple thing as far as, or people make it out to be simple. Okay, we'll just manage stress better, which a lot of times is easier said than done. Like somebody who has kids, maybe they have 3 kids, they have a full-time job, they have other responsibilities, they, have this kind of hobby that they try to stick to, or their kids, they're in sports, so they have to take them to, multiple sports practices, and then obviously their kids get sick, so then they have to take them to doctor's appointments, and then they get sick themselves, so they're dealing with that sickness. Someone who is married, has kids, has a full-time job, has all those responsibilities, their stress is going to look a lot different than somebody who is, let's say, just out of college, 22 years old, just landed their first full-time, well-paying job, living by themselves, living in maybe just an apartment, where, they're living by themselves. They only have to fend for themselves financially. They only have to deal with themselves. They don't have to worry about, kids running into their bedroom or waking them up early. They're always able to get 8 to 9 hours of sleep each night. Like, there's stress management tools that we have to remember and we have to utilize as much as possible in both scenarios, like, going for walks, making sure you're doing some kind of, meditation if that works for you. Do some kind of reading or journaling for maybe 10 minutes a day if that works for you. Whatever helps you to alleviate stress. Those are just some examples we go over with clients, but those are strategies we can all use to manage stress better. Regardless of what situation we're in, someone with kids, full-time job, or the 22-year-old living by themselves. But there's no denying that, like, there's a certain level of stress that you probably will have that's more if you're somebody in that first example versus if you're a 22-year-old living by yourselves with very minimal, financial stress or even stress of taking care of others, right? It's just, it's just is what it is. So because you have more stress and you have more life obstacles, it might take you longer to achieve a 30-pound weight loss versus someone who's 22 years old living on their own, and they, can make anything they want at home and don't have to worry about their kids nagging them about, oh, I don't like to eat this, or I hate eating that, or they don't have to worry about, like trying to make it to the gym while, what are they going to do with their kids if daycare is closed or something at that time? Like somebody who has all those other obstacles, there's a good chance it might take longer to lose those 30 pounds versus someone who doesn't. And that's something else to think about when you're asking the question of, how long will it take to get results? And also ask yourself too, like, what are you willing to or not willing to give up to achieve this result? I was actually just having, I feel like I keep referencing conversations from clients in this, but I think it's super important and it's super practical to hear about specific examples of like people dealing with this in the real world. Like I could talk about, in this video, in this podcast, of just my own thoughts, but like these are real conversations I'm having with clients every single day. So I think it's really relevant. But I had a conversation today about this client who she asked me, like, with the holiday coming up, with Memorial Day, like there's probably going to be some social drinking. And then also just with the summer coming up, it's going to be, it's going to be hard to turn down alcohol every single weekend because that's just something they socially do. So how to approach that? And a big part of my response was like I see clients, if they have more than 1 to 2 drinks a week, I see it start to, like, it seems like it starts to negatively impact fat loss progress. Like fat loss just is slower than what we'd expect if they're having more than 1 to 2 drinks a week. And with that, I told this client, she's recently had a lot of traveling. We've had a lot of trips. We've had a lot of things going on where we couldn't track as accurately. So we kind of been focusing a lot on just maintaining where we're at during those periods. And I kind of told her, we can have, 1 to 2 drinks maybe every single weekend. And that's fine. And you can enjoy yourself and have fun. But keep in mind, if we do that every single weekend, it probably will slow down progress a little bit. And if you want to speed up progress a little bit, especially compared to what it maybe has been over the past month, then maybe let's try to have 1 to 2 drinks every other weekend, or maybe even every 3 weekends. And that way we can speed up progress a little bit. So like the whole gist of this example, and the whole gist of this conversation is, what are you willing to give up, or what are you not willing to give up? Like if this client or if you're willing to give up alcohol multiple weekends in a row when normally you would have alcohol every weekend, then you'll probably achieve progress faster than somebody who's not willing to give up alcohol every weekend, just because that will set them back a little bit each week. So one thing to ask yourself too when you're trying to ask the question, how long will it take to see results, is what sacrifices are you willing to make? Or what sacrifices are you not willing to make? And what changes are you willing to make? And what changes are you not willing to make? At least right now. Because if you're not willing to make as many changes right now, then your progress will be a little bit slower. And that's okay. It's not a bad thing. I think people think it's a bad thing, but it ends up only being a bad thing because they're labeling it as bad in their mind, because they feel like they should, if they're not achieving this dramatic result in 3 months, then they feel like they're failing, which isn't the case. But if you're willing to make less changes or less sacrifices, then your progress will be slower than if you're willing to, make more sacrifices and more changes. And that's just kind of the reality of things. So, that's another important question to ask yourself is, what are you willing to or not willing to give up? Because that will dictate a lot, how fast your progress will be, not how successful your journey will be, because, you could achieve slow results. But if you lose 20 pounds in a span of 2 years, but you made all the sacrifices you wanted to make, or you didn't make all the sacrifices you didn't want to make, and you lived your life and you were happy doing it, and you achieved this result over a long period of time, then that's a huge win too, which kind of makes me think about my own fat loss or weight loss journey right now. When my son Aiden was born, I was around 218, 219 pounds. And right now, this morning, I woke up in the 208s. So around 10 pounds in around six-ish months. And a lot of people would probably look at that and they would think that's like a failure because it took me 6 months to lose 10 pounds. But for me, it's been a huge win because that was my expectation going in. And I told myself, I want to lose weight because I want to just get healthier and I want to, be a little bit leaner. I want to feel a little bit better on my skin and things. But I wasn't willing to make the sacrifice of losing a lot of strength. Strength in the gym is super important to me. I think it's very fun to lift heavy. I think it's very fun to progress with my workouts and my, powerlifting lifts. So I wasn't willing to sacrifice a huge chunk of strength. And because I wasn't willing to sacrifice a huge chunk of strength, I had to lose the weight slower in order to maintain more of my strength. So that was where I made that trade-off of I'm going to take things slower and I'm going to be okay with slower progress in order to maintain more strength. And I've been really happy with the strength I've maintained. I've literally maintained pretty much all my strength. I feel really good. I don't feel deprived at all. I don't feel like I think when people lose weight very quickly, they lose this big chunk of weight and they're like, okay, gosh, now I want to breathe and relax and take a break from my diet. But at the same time, I'm stressed because I don't want to gain it all back. I never experienced any of that because I took things slower and I did it in chunks. But that's just, a trade-off I was willing to make. I was willing to make that trade-off of achieving the result in more time. So I had to make overall less sacrifices or less changes to my life right now. So you have to think about that. What changes are you willing to make? What sacrifices are you willing to make or not? And, with that, that's going to, if you're changing less or making less sacrifices, it's going to take you longer to achieve those results. So, those are kind of all the factors to really think about when asking yourself how long it will take to get results. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, if I want to lose this much weight, how long should it take me to lose that? And this will depend on all of those factors. Scientifically, what we see from like research and weight maintenance and weight loss maintenance, losing around 1 pound per average, or 1 pound on average per week is kind of what they deem as like a healthy rate of weight loss. A more specific example is 0.5% to 1% of your body weight. So if you are 200 pounds, that is between 1 to 2 pounds per week on average is a healthy rate of weight loss. Doesn't mean you're going to lose necessarily 1 to 2 pounds every single week, because water retention and things can sometimes hide weight loss or fat loss you're actually having. But it's more so over a span of 20 weeks. If you lose between 20 to 40 pounds in 20 weeks, let me back up. Not necessarily 20 to 40 pounds, but if in 20 weeks and you're 200 pounds, if you lose around 1 to 2 pounds per week for that 20-week period, when you look back, then that is a pretty healthy rate of weight loss. In my opinion, in my experience working with clients, aiming for 0.5% is a lot more sustainable than aiming for 1. 1 is really on the high end, and I would, if you're listening to this, encourage you to aim more towards the 0.5 on average per week. But that's kind of, what we see from like the physiological level, what is kind of quote unquote healthy or what is more likely to be maintained after. But you can stretch that out as far as you want based on what you're willing to or not willing to give up. That might be even stretched out farther based on genetic factors. That might be stretched out farther on how advanced you are, what your dieting history looks like. All these things I talked about could make your journey actually take a little bit longer than that 0.5% of your weight loss per week on average. So just kind of keep those in mind when you're like developing expectations of, how fast you should lose this weight. So, or how fast you should see results in general. So I hope this was helpful and informative and maybe eye-opening. Would definitely love to know your thoughts. Comment below if there's something that really stuck out to you that you're like, wow, I never really thought about it that way, or it makes total sense. Would love to hear your feedback. But I think that's it for this one. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you guys in the next one.